Okay, but I'm going to actually have a start with the Mishnah on the bottom of 148, okay? And that way I think we'll be able to move right along. So our Mishnah starts, Mone Adam et Orachav v'et Parparotav mipiv, that one may actually count the number of his guests and the number of his, let's call it, appetizers. Okay? Mipiv, in other words, orally. Okay? But, says the Gemara, Ava al Mishnah, lo avalom min haktav, but he can't be writing it down on Shabbat, of course. Mefaye Saddam im banav, he may make a lottery, a person, with regards to his sons, ve'at b'nei veito, or people in his household, al hashulchan, in terms of giving out portions of food at the table. Ideally, again, says the Mishnah, ubilvad shelo yitkaven la'asot mana gedola keneged mana ketana, on the condition that his intent is not to give certain ones larger portions and other ones smaller portions. And then the final part of the Mishnah, umetilin chalashim al hakodshim, and one can cast lots. In other words, thinking of Purim, remember, a lottery, in regards to the carrying out the portions for the kodshim, sacred, the sacrifices, biyom tov, lo al hamanot. That is applicable for yontif, but not in regards to the normal portions that a Kohen should be given, and there'll be more discussion of this, the Gemara. So let's go on to our Amud today with Kaf Memtet, 149a, with the Gemara Mai Tama. What's the reasoning? Rav Bibi Amar, says Rav Bibi, Gzeira Shema Yimchok. His argument, says Rav Bibi, why can't you do it on writing down the number of guests, right? Perhaps he's going to erase it. Abaye Amar, Gzeira Shema Yikra, B'shtari Hed Yotot. And Abaye disagrees and says, no, perhaps because he's writing down guests and appetizers, and therefore he'll come to read other kinds of documents, business documents, let's say, bills and things like that. My benaihu, what's the difference between them? Excuse me. Ika benaihu, the katav akotel umadle. The difference between them suggests the Gemara initially that these items are written on a wall and it's fairly high up. Okay? In other words, the writing is fairly high up on the wall. Laman de Amar Shema Yimchok, according to the view of Rav Bibi, that he says one might erase it, lo chayshinan. Therefore, we don't need to be suspect, right? That he would do something on Shabbat. Laman de Amar Shema Yikra, but according to the one Abaye who says he might read other documents, chayshinan, we should be suspect. So the Gemara goes on, Ulamam de Amar Shema Yimchok, and according to the one who said we might erase, Nichush Shema Yikra, shouldn't we also then suspect that maybe that would lead him to read a secular or business documents? V'tu, and furthermore, says the Gemara, L'shema Yimchok, according to the one also who says perhaps he will erase it, okay? Right, in that case, maybe he's not going to erase it because it's too high, lo chashinen. Are you sure we shouldn't suspect that? V'hatanya, because aren't we taught elsewhere in another Braita, lo yikra la'or haner, a person should not read by the light of the lantern, right? What happens, or the light of the lamp? Va'amar Rabba, says Rabba, afilu gavoa shtei kamot. Even if the lamp is, so to speak, 2 stories higher up on the wall, afilu gavoa shtei mardaot. And even if it's, okay, the height, so whether it's the height, let's say, of 2 people, okay, or the height of 2 long poles that were used to push the oxen along when they would, let's say, pull a plow, afilu asara batim, okay, or even if they were is some unimaginable height, right? Ze al gav ze, one on top of the other, lo yikra. He should not read by such a lamp. Ela ika beinayu, says the Gemara. Rather, says, what's between the difference between Rabbi Bibi and Abaye? The katava kotel umitate, but rather that it's written on a wall and it's down below. Laman da'amar shema yimchok, according to the one who says he might erase it, chayshinan, then we should suspect, okay, that could be the case, even on Shabbat. Ulaman da'amar shema yikra, and according to the one who says perhaps he will read other kinds of business documents even on Shabbat, lo chayshinan, we shouldn't then suspect, okay? So the Gemara says, what are we talking about here? Guda b'shtara lo machlif. A wall in regards to documents, somebody is not going to mix up. One thing is a wall, one thing is a document, right? Ulaman de'amar shema yikra. But according to the one who argues, lest they read, as I say, business documents in Shabbat, lichush shema yimchok. Let us say that we should also then be concerned about the fact that he might erase. Ela ika beinayu. But rather, this is what is the difference between them. Okay? Dichiyek atavla va'apinkas. But rather, that it's engraved, it's written on some sort of tablet, okay, or some sort of a board, right? Laman de'amar shema yimchok, according to the one who says perhaps he might erase, lo chayshinan. Therefore, we don't need to suspect. Laman de'amar shema yikra, but according to the one who says perhaps he'll read, go on to read other secular documents, chayshinan. Maybe we should suspect them. Laman de'amar shema yimchok, and according to the one who says perhaps he'll erase, lichush shema yikra, let us also suspect that perhaps it might lead him to read other business documents on Shabbat. V'chi tema, and if you want to say, tavla upinkas, b'shtaram lo machlif, that if it was written on a board or on a tablet, that one does not interchange, one doesn't mix these up with, let's say, paper documents. V'hatanya, okay? Don't we have a Braita again that teaches, Moneh Adam kama mibifnim, v'kama mibachutz. A person can count how many are inside and how many are outside, okay? All right, the following. Right? V'kama manot atid lahaniach lefneihem. Okay. Meiktav she'al gabe hakotel. And how many portions he has to serve to them from writing that is on the wall. In other words, in this particular case, avalo michtav she'al gabe tavla upinkas, but not based on anything written on a board or on a tablet. Okay, so the Gemara asks the question, Hechi dami, how is this possible? Ilema dichtiv michtav. If we're going to say it's written, indeed it's written, in this case, in ink. Mai shanahacha, umai shanahacha, asks the Gemara. So what difference is it here? And what difference is it there? Ele lav techiyek. No, says the Gemara, what we're talking about is something that's improved. But the Gemara continues, Ukatani michtav she'al galbei hakotel. But our Mishnah said that it was written, implying in ink on the wall. Aval lo michtav she'al gav tavla upinkas, and not that it was written on a tablet or some sort of a board. Ele le'olam d'ketav hakotel umidle. But rather we understand this to be something that's written on a wall and it's higher up. Udikakashalach the Rabbah. Right? And in regarding to what the problem that Rava raised, okay, namely when he said that even if it was the light, the lamp, even if it was taller than two people or taller than the ox prods or whatever, excuse me, and therefore shouldn't use it regardless of the height. The Rabba Tana'ai. Why? Because this was a situation is that Rabba was dealing really with a machloket Tanaim. The Tanya, as taught in a Braita, Mone Adam et Orchav ve'et Parporotav mipiv, that one can count the number of his guests and the number of appetizers, we said, by orally, all right? Aval lo min haktav, and not, okay, according to something written. Rav Acha matir michtav sha'al gabe hakotel. But Rav Acha permits something that is written on the wall. So Gemara asks, Hechi dami, excuse me, what do we mean by this? Ilema diktiv matata. If we say that it's written down below, lichush shema yimchok, let us be suspect that one might erase it. Elelav dikatav umidle, but rather not, shouldn't we not say then that it's written and higher up? Shmamina, and we learn from this, the Rabba Tana'ai Shmamina. And we learn to this that Rabba's ruling is really dependent on this machloket Tanaim. Indeed, that's what we learn. Okay. So Gemara now asks, Lahani Tanai, Kahani Tanai? Do we say that this machloket Tanaim is similar to the other machloket Tanaim, to another one? And here now we're going to get what the other one is. The Tanya has taught in a Braita, Ein ro'in b'mar'ah b'Shabbat, that one should not look into a mirror on Shabbat. Okay? The concern here is going to be that if one looks in the mirror and sees their hair is loose hairs and things like that, would they have a tendency then to try to trim it? Okay. Rabbi Meir, matir b'mar'eh hakavua b'kotel. Rabbi Meir, on the one hand, permits looking into a mirror that's fixed on the wall. Ma'ishma. Okay, so what are we talking about? Hakavua b'kotel, when we say that it's fixed on the wall. The adahachi, that in regards to this, okay, right? Bahaki madkir. Why? Because looking at it on the wall, he will then realize and remember that it's Shabbat and he cannot do any sort of hair trimming. She'eno kavua, nami adahachi, bahachi madkir. Okay? Even, it says the Gemara, perhaps even if the mirror is not fixed to the wall, on this case too, maybe he would come and remember that it's Shabbat. So the Gemara answers, Hacha b'mar'eh shamatechet askina. Now here we're talking about a mirror that is made from metal and has metal edges. And if it's a hand, let's say mirror, okay, with metal edges, one might use it just to sort of trim. Ukidarav Nachman. And this follows the view, says the Gemara, of Rav Nachman. Amar Rabba bar Avuha, the Amar Rav Nachman, says Rabba bar Avuha in the name of Rav Nachman. Amar Rabba bar Avuha, Mipnei ma omru mar'eh shematechet asura. On what basis is it that we say that a mirror made from metal is forbidden? Mipnei she'adam asui lahash'ir ba nimin hamadul dalin. Why? Because it's possible that an individual will come and want to remove whatever straggling hairs they might have using the mirror. Okay, let's go on now to a new item in our Gemara. A new Braita. Tanu Rabbanan, says the Braita. Katav hamehalech tachet hatzura. If we have writing that is underneath a painting or a picture, v'tachet hadio kanaot, and one that is writing that is underneath some sort of a, let's call it a statue or an image. Okay? Asur lekroto b'Shabbat, says this Mishnah, Braita. It is forbidden to read it on Shabbat. So the Gemara continues. Udiokna atzma af bechol asur lehistakel ba. But such a image, a statue, a graven image, okay, itself, even on weekday, is forbidden to look upon it. Mishum shene'amar. Why? Because we have a pasuk that tells us, Al tifnu el ha'elilim. The pasuk says really that don't look upon idols. Mai Talmuda. Okay, what is it here that's being taught? Amar Rabbi Chanin, says Rabbi Chanin, Al tifnu el mida'atechem. Okay, don't look, okay, into what you might conceive it in your own mind. In other words, don't look at anything that you might shape for yourself mentally as a kind of idol. Okay, let's go on now back to our section from our Mishnah. Mefaye Sadam im banav v'chule. Okay, we said in our Mishnah that a man could have a lottery of food portions for his children and his household, okay? So long as his intent was not to give some larger portions and some smaller portions, okay? So the Gemara continues, Im banav ve'im b'nei beito, in, okay? With his family, his children, and his household, okay? This seems acceptable. V'im acher, and with anyone else, like strangers, lo, that shouldn't be the case. Ma tama, what's the reasoning? Kid the Rav Yehuda, It's like the view of Rav Yehuda. Amar Shmuel, in the name of Shmuel. The Amar Rav Yehuda Amar Shmuel, as Rav Yehuda says in Shmuel's name, B'nei Chavurah hamakpidim ze al ze ovrim mishum midah. That if you have people gathered together as a group, okay, and they are very particular, okay, about the size of the portions that each should receive, okay, in terms of the weight or the measure or the count or things like that, right? Ovrain mishum midah umishum mishkal umishum minyan, okay, that it's possible, okay, that okay, if there can, one could, in giving out the portions, okay, transgress the aspect, okay, of the measure, or the weight, or the number of the size of the portion. Umishun levi'in upor'in biyom tov, and also because of the idea of levi'in, of borrowing, upor'in, and paying back on Yom Tov. In other words, the concern here is that if you give different people inappropriate measure or weight or a number of items, you're over on rivit, okay? It's as if you're giving something back to somebody more than what they were entitled to, okay? Ukedivrei Beit Hillel, and this is according to Beit Hillel, Af Mishum Rivit, okay, also because of usury, okay? Ihachi, says the Gemara, if that's the case, Banav B'nei Beito Nami, then in regards to his children or his household, shouldn't he also be concerned about that as well? Okay? So the Gemara then tells us, Banav B'nei Beito, Hainu Tama Kedarav Yehuda Amar Rav. His concern about his family, his children or his servants, his household, is based on the view of Rav Yehuda in the name of Rav. The Amar Rav Yehuda Amar Rav, mutar lahavot banav uvnei veito b'ribit. That it's permissible, okay, to lend to his sons and members of his household on interest. Why? Kedei lahat imam ta'am ribit. In order to really instruct them about the issues of interest. Give them an experience about it so they will know not to do it. So they'll understand what the concept is and the concern. Ihachi, if that's the case, said the Gemara, Mana Gedola, Keneged Mana Ketana Nami. If that's the case, then one should be able to give one a larger portion and another one a smaller portion. Okay, also in that situation. Ein hachinami. Indeed, says the Gemara, that may be the case. All right? B'chasuri mixura b'hachi katani. Excuse me, and something here is missing. And this is how we have to teach it. Mefayes Adam, im banav v'im b'nei veito, al hashulchan. That a person may use a lottery, okay, to designate the portions for his children and for the members of his household at the table. Afilu mana gdola keneged mana ketana. Regarding some with a larger portion, others with a smaller portion. Ma'itama, what's the reasoning? Kidarav Yehuda Amar Rav, as said by Rav Yehuda in the name of Rav, Im banav ve'im b'nei veito, with regards to his children and those members of his household? Im, yes, that's the case. Im acherim, lo. But with others, no. Mai tama, what's the reasoning? Kid Rav Yehuda amar Shmuel, as the case of Rav Yehuda in the name of Shmuel. Mana gedola keneged mana ketana. Okay? A larger portion versus a smaller portion. Okay, af bechol la'achirim asur. Even on weekdays, in regards to strangers, is forbidden. Ma'itama mishum kuvia. What's the reasoning? Because it seems like it's gambling. Okay, in other words, it resembles gambling. In other words, it's as if you sign to say someone is getting something that they don't necessarily deserve. And since gambling was looked upon as a means, as almost like a kind of stealing, okay, getting something you don't deserve, that's why it's prohibited. Okay, now we get to the last part of our Mishnah that talked about casting lots, a lottery for the Kohanim. Okay? Okay. Says our Mishnah, Matilin halashim al v'chulei. Okay? So the Gemara asks and begins the following. Mai avalo al hamanot. What does it mean when our Mishnah specifically said not in regards to the portions? Okay. Amar Rabbi Yaakov, Berei de Bat Yaakov, says Rabbi Yaakov, the son of the daughter of Yaakov, Aval lo al hamanot shel chol biyom tov. Okay. And the general explanation seemed to be, but that we're not talking about, according at least to Rambam, chulin portions, okay, that would be given out on a holiday. Pshita, isn't that obvious? Says the Gemara, Mahu detema. What are you then trying to tell us? O'il u'ktiv, since we know the pasuk says, and it's written, Va'amcha k'merivei kohen, okay, that thy people are like priests that quarrel, okay? Afilu manot dechol nami kamash malan. Even regarding the weekday portions, okay, we would say there too, okay, that it could be problematic, that one might think that one is involved in paying back, giving somebody back something, again, which is the concern for Ravit. Va'amar Rabbi Yaakov Berei de Bat Yaakov, and again, we cite him, says Ya Rabbi Yaakov, the son of the daughter of Yaakov, Kol shechavero ne'anash al yado, okay, a situation, okay, where one is being punished, all right, because of another. Ein machnisin oto b'mechitzoto shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu. He is not allowed to enter the close circles, okay, the precincts, the area close to Hashem. Minalan, how do we know this? Ilema mishum de kativ. If it's because we see that it's written in a pasuk, Vayomer Hashem, mi yifte et achal, v'yal v'yipol b'ramot Gilad. Okay. Asking the question, and Hashem said, who will persuade Achav that he may go and fall in Ramot Gilad? Vayomer ze bacha, v'ze amar bacha, and this angel, divine being, said it in one manner, and another gave another in another manner. V'yatsa haruach v'yamod lefnei Hashem. And then this spirit stood before Hashem and said, Vayomer, ani eftenu v'gomer, that I will, in a sense, seduce him, persuade him. Okay? Vayomer eitzei, v'hayiti ruach sheker b'fi kol nevi'av. Okay? And I will be a lying spirit in the mouth of all his prophets. Okay? Vayomer tifteh, v'gam tuchal, say v'asei chen. And Hashem said, go and entice him, and you will overcome him and go forth and do so. V'amrinan mai ruach, and we say here, what do we mean by this spirit? Amar Rabbi Yochanan, Zeh rucho shel Navot. This was the spirit of Navot, the Jezreelite. Okay? In other words, again, the question of values that the one applies to exchange of business, right? If one is careful about Revit, all right, one makes sure that one is strict in terms of returning the appropriate value of an item. Okay? So might say, what do we mean when it says go out? Amar Rav, say memechitzati. It means leave. Says Rav, it meant Hashem told him, go out from my bond, my closeness. Right? Right. V'dilma hatam hainu tama dichtiv. And perhaps there then we have the reason, because it's written, dover shkarim lo yichavein. Why? Because it's written, one who speaks falsehood should not be established before Hashem's eyes. Right? Ela mehacha, or perhaps it comes from here. Shiv'at kalon mikvod shata gamata v'harel v'gomer. Okay? That one filled with shame for glory drinks and also is considered like uncircumcised. Shiv'at kalon mikavod, when it says he's filled with shame for glory, Zeh Nebuchadnezzar, that refers to Nebuchadnezzar. Shata gamata v'harel zet tzidkiyah. When it says the pasuk drank and also becomes like uncircumcised, that refers to Tzidkiyah, Tzidkiyahu, the last king, right? Okay, so what happens? The following, says the Gemara. Chada de kulye kra b'nechubadnetzer kti. Okay, one, okay, objection to this is that perhaps the whole verse refers to Nebuchadnezzar. Va'od, and as far as Tzidkiyah is concerned, Tzadika, he was really a righteous person. Okay, so what could the righteous Tzedekah have done to him? Okay. The Amar Rabbi Yehuda Amar Rav, says Rabbi Yehuda in the name of Rav, B'sha'a shebikesh oto rasha la'asot la'oto tzadik kach v'chulei. Okay, implying here that when that wicked person, namely Nebuchadnezzar, wanted to do something to the kings that he had conquered, okay, his male guests, in other words, implying that he would serve them at a fancy meal, get them intoxicated to the point that he could have homosexual activity with them. Mihacha, but rather maybe it comes based on this situation. Okay? Following the pasuk, Gam anosh l'tzadik lo tov. Rather, also to punish the righteous is not good. Ein lo tov ela ra. When we say it's not good, all right, it means evil, right? So that's what we are trying to refer to. So that even a righteous person who is forced into an evil act has committed an evil deed. Uktiv, and we've also written, Ki lo el chafetz rasha ata, lo yagur chara, tzadik ata Hashem, v'lo yagur migor chara. Okay? Again, citing another pasuk, right? For you, Hashem, you have no pleasure in wickedness, and evil will not remain with you. Namely, that Hashem is the one who's righteous, okay, and that Hashem does not permit anyone who commits acts of wickedness to remain in his close proximity. Okay, so the Gemara continues. Mai mashma dahai chalashim, onto a new subject. What are we referring to? How do we understand this term of chalashim, okay, as referring to some kind of lottery, right? As used in the Mishnah. Lishna de Puryahu. This is the language of connoting Purim, of lots, okay? Dichtiv, why? Because we have another pasuk that says, Ech nafalt mishamayim Hillel ben Shachar nigda'at la'eretz cholesh al goyim v'gomer. How thou art fallen from heaven, the day star, son of the morning, how you cut down to the ground, you cast lots over the nations. Amar Rabba bar Rav Huna says the following, Melamed shahaya matil pur al gedolei malchut, Leida eza ben yomo shel mishkav zachur. That Nebuchadnezzar would cast lots over these captured kings, okay, and to determine which one on which day he would involve with his homosexual inclinations. Now, going on, Uktiv, and it's written, Kol malchei goyim hulam v'gomer. Okay, it's also written, okay, all the kings of the nations, all of them sleep in glory. Amar Rabbi Yochanan, says Rabbi Yochanan, shenachu mimishkav zachur. It meant that they rested, they discontinued with that kind of homosexual behavior. Okay? All right, let's go on. Further, V'amar Rabbi Yochanan, says Rabbi Yochanan again, referring to Nebuchadnezzar, Kol yamav shelato rasha. Now, all the days of that same wicked person, okay, lo nimsa schok b'peh kol bria. There was no joy, no happiness on the face of people. Okay, as it says, nacha shakta kol haaretz pitzchu rina. Okay, the whole world is at rest, is quiet. Later they break forth into singing. Okay, Miklal da'ad hashta, implying then, inferring that up to this point, lo havarina, there was no joy. Another statement. V'amar Rabbi Yitzchak, amar Rabbi Yochanan, asur la'amod b'veito shel ato rasha. It is forbidden to stand in the house, in a sense, in the palace of that same wicked person. Why? Shenamar Useirim Yekadusham. Why? Because these satyrs, these kind of idol, not idol, but all sorts of uh, sacred beings, right? For the Nebuchadnezzar were there. Okay. Another statement. V'amar Rav Yehuda Amar Rav, v'shah shebikesh oto rasha la'osot la'otot tzadik kach. Okay, at the time when that wicked person Nebuchadnezzar wanted to do that act to that same righteous person, to Tzidkiyahu, what happened? A little examination, a little exaggeration here. Let's see. Kach nimshecha orlato shalosh meot amah v'haita mechazeret al kol hamesiba kula. That in this case, what happened? That his foreskin enlarged to the point that it was 300 cubits long, and it was hanging out in front of all of the kings gathered, captured kings gathered at the banquet where he had hoped to intoxicate them. Shene'amar, as it says, Savat kalon mikvod shata gam ata v'ha'arel. Okay? Filled with shame for glory, drink also, and be as one uncircumcised. Okay? Arel, and when we say uncircumcised, the gematria shalosh me'ot have. That number is equal to 300. V'amar Rav Yehuda Amar Rav. And another statement says Rav Yehuda in the name of Rav, V'sha'a sheyarad oto rasha legehinom. At the time when that same wicked person, again, all referring to Nebuchadnezzar, okay, when he eventually went down to Gehenna, right? Ra'ashu kol yordei Gehinnom. All of the, let's say, previous inhabitants of Gehenna were nervous, right? They trembled, right? Amru shema limshol alehem huba. They said, perhaps he's coming to rule over us, right? Oh, lichlot kemo tam huba. Or maybe he's coming to become as weak as we are. Okay? Shne'amar, as it says in a pasuk, gam ata cholit kemonu elenu nimshelet. Okay? That you are becoming as weak as us or to rule over us. Says the Gemara, yatzta bat kol, a voice, divine voice comes out, va'amra mimi ne'amt reda ishkava et ha'arelim, whom the passes in beauty goes down, and he's laid with the uncircumcised. Now, another pasuk. Ech shavat noges shabta midahacha. How is the oppressor ceased? Okay, the golden city stopped. Okay, pasuk from Yeshayahu. Amar Rabbi Yehuda Amar Rav Shavta Omer Zo She'amra. Okay, the people have ceased, he says, and this is what they say. We'll go over just a bit. Midor Bahaba. Okay, from here on, right? Right. So in other words, from they've limited the amount of the measure of the tribute that they have to bring. Ve'ika da amre, and there are those who say it this way, she'amra ma'od ma'od hevi below midah. Okay, that bring more and more without any measure. Now, what does this refer to? It says in another pasuk, Ravabu Yetera Hosaftli, an excellent greatness added. Rabbi Yehuda Amar Rav Yirmiyah Bar Abba. Melamed says, comes to teach us, okay, that Nebuchadnezzar was supposedly so great, and yet he also went down to Gehenna. Melamed Shirachav al Ari. Okay, Zachar, that he rode on top of a male lion, the Kashar Tanin Barosho, and he used a snake for reins to direct the lion. The Kayem Mashanelmar, in order to satisfy what was cited in the Pasuk in Yirmiyahu, V'gam et Chayat Hasadeh Natati Lo La'avdo. Okay, that even the beasts of the field were given to serve him. And we'll stop right there at the Mishnah and pick up there tomorrow, okay, on 158. Okay, one last item before we go. We're actually going to finish Gemara Shabbos a week from tomorrow. And so I'm looking if people have any ideas what we might want to do as some sort of siyum, whether it would be better to do a Zoom siyum, okay, or something more tangible. Please let me know, because I'd like to, I'm going to call some of the other guys as well and see if they have suggestions, because I'd like us at least to do something, okay, as well. All right? So I appreciate any suggestions people will have. Maybe some sort of lunch or something or whatever, but whether it should be Zoom or something more, let's say something outdoors where we would have space. But a lot of people, remember, are working on the Daf on their own, so I need to either have an email sent out or have something put into the bulletin by the middle of the week. All right?
Hey, good idea. Very good idea.
Thank you, guys. All right, everybody stay well. Have a good day.
Thank you.
Take care.
Bye now.
Thank you. Thank you.